Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome indeed to this afternoon's iOB business webinar. It's a pleasure to have you on here, and we are very much looking forward to showing you the kind of content we have lined up for you today. Now, for those of you that are joining us again, you'll be familiar with how these webinars work, and a very warm welcome back after the new year. We hope that you had a great one. And for any new faces that are joining us, we can see a few fresh faces, which is excellent. It's always great to see new people joining these webinars. So just to give you a brief overview of how these run, we do a brief introduction at the start with myself. My name is Ben, and I'm the resident business coach here at iOB Business. We're then going to dive into a presentation that's going to last for around about 15 to 20 minutes or so. And then at the end, we will offer the chance for a Q&A session as well. Okay, so those usually run for 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how many questions we get. Okay, so it's important to note that throughout today's session, you are more than welcome to ask any questions that you might have related to the presentation itself, marketing, business, sales, whatever you like, okay? So between each topic, we're going to take a brief pause. We're going to run through 3 topics today. And between each one, we're going to take a brief pause to give you the opportunity to jot down any notes and indeed ask any questions that you might have for us today. Okay, so whilst we are waiting for everybody to join us, we're just going to give it another minute or so. We're going to go ahead and get set up with the presentation on screen here. Okay, so for those of you that are just joining us now, welcome, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here. Okay, now right before we kick off, I'm going to go ahead and switch off my video camera so that you can focus on the presentation. And if you'd be so kind as to let me know that you can hear my voice okay, and that you can see the screen okay as well. All right. Okay, perfect. So looks like everybody can hear me, which is great, and everybody can see the presentation. Fantastic. Okay, so let's get started then. Okay, today's topic of conversation: what is the true potential of a digital agency? Okay, so now we're just coming in to a new year. There's lots of exciting things that can happen in a new year, including many new businesses being launched. Okay, and one of the most common questions that I get as a business coach that we get here at iOB Business is, well, what is the true potential of that business? Okay, how can I make sure that I understand what I'm getting myself into and what my potential is there, both financially, physically? How big can the business get? Okay, and what can I achieve? So these are the questions that we're going to answer for you today. Now, your presenter today is myself. My name is Ben Porter-Smith, and I'm a professional business coach. Okay, working with small businesses is what I do every single day. So I'm very, very, very familiar with the sphere of startups, small businesses, micro businesses, and indeed small to medium businesses as well. Okay, so we have you well covered here for today's content, and we very much hope that you enjoy what we have to say. Okay, so today we're going to cover 3 individual topics. Number 1, we're going to discuss the ever-growing demand in the digital world. Number 2, we're going to discuss expansion avenues for your digital agency. And third and final, we are going to discuss the traits of digital agency market leaders. Okay, who is doing it best and what are they doing? All right, so beginning with topic number 1 today: ever-growing demand in the digital world. Okay, so the first thing to note is that in recent years, there have been significant proof that more and more businesses are moving online. Okay, so if you look just simply at the way the world is moving, we're getting access to much more digital services, much more online service than we had before. Okay, now we're going to use a great example of this in just a minute, but if we look at our day-to-day lives, we're seeing much more accessibility online. Okay, you have major e-commerce platforms like Amazon. Okay, they are a market leader in the online digital e-commerce world. Okay, if you've ever used Amazon, if you've ever used online shopping for something like Asda, okay, your day-to-day food shop, if you've ever used an online platform for food like Just Eat, okay, you will have become familiar with how the online platform works, not to mention Amazon Prime Video, not to mention Netflix, not to mention Spotify. Okay, they're all online-based services, all accessible online. Okay, more and more businesses are moving online. Now, that doesn't just mean the Goliaths of the world. Okay, not that just the market leaders. We're also looking at smaller stores, smaller local businesses. Okay, personal training is a great example here. Personal training used to only be accessible in person in a gym. Okay, now it's moved to online sessions. You've got access to Zoom sessions, you can do it on Skype, you can join classes online, you can do all kinds of wonderful things. So recent years have been significant proof that more and more businesses are moving online. Okay. Now, online retail is on the climb, whilst bricks and mortar is unfortunately and generally on the decline. Okay. So if you live near a local high street, okay, your local town market, something like that, you will have seen that unfortunately it's not as busy as it used to be. Okay. Stores are unfortunately having to close their doors. And it's not a nice thing to have to talk about, but unfortunately, for the most part, this is the reality of it. Okay. Now, a couple of core reasons for this, okay? The first one being that when it comes to physical locations, most of the time they have to charge more money, okay? Now, this is because they have additional overheads to support that an online store may not, all right? So using a very basic example here, let's just say your standard everyday convenience shop, okay, where you go and buy regular food items and things like that. Now, their prices are generally more expensive than that you would find in a big market chain or indeed online, because they have overheads to cover. They are just a small business, so their supply costs might be higher because they can't buy in as bulk, in as large quantity. They have to support the bricks and mortar building around them in rent and utilities. They have to pay staff costs. They have to pay other material costs like marketing and things like that, which means ultimately that their products are going to be higher priced than that of most of their major competitors or indeed online counterparts. Okay, so that's reason number one. Reason number two for the unfortunate decline of in-person retail, as it were, is that people will have to travel to that location. They'll have to expend effort to go and get what they want to get. All right, so let's just say that there is a shop 10 minutes away from you that sells hardware products. Okay, now you could jump in your car or get on the train or walk or however you wanted to get there and go and purchase this item physically from the shop. Now, the major benefit would carry that you would get that on the same day, yes, if they had it in stock. The major disadvantage is that you would have to travel to the location and spend time out of your day doing this. All right. Now, of course, the unfortunate reality is that the alternative is easier. Okay. So in many ways, if you're looking at this from a context of how much effort do we expend, we're looking at the online service where you can simply click and it will be delivered to your front door. Okay. So with this being the case, it becoming a more common option for people to choose simply to shop online. Okay. They decide that they actually would rather stay in the comfort of their own home and they would shop online. Now, this is an elongated description of how online retail is battling in-house or in-person retail, okay, physical retail. And it's important that you understand this, because when we're looking at the context of the digital world, many businesses are choosing to go online for this reason. They know that this is where their customers are now, okay? So online retail is on the climb, whilst bricks and mortar is generally on the decline here, okay? So eateries and fast food chains are beginning to offer more delivery services. Okay, this is a fantastic example again. Okay, Just Eat processed 588 million orders in 2020. Okay, this was a 42% increase on the same period in 2019. Okay, now at this time, we did have some very unfortunate events occur. As I'm sure you'll be aware, we had an awful virus spreading around globally to cause some really, really devastating knock-on effects. Okay, now, of course, that as well, with people being in lockdown, people not being able to leave their homes, this did also increase online activity, okay? Nonetheless, this is an indicator, along with many other points, that services are moving online. For everything that we just discussed, for current events, okay, it's simply easier to do things online and sometimes also safer, okay? So with Just Eat processing 588 million orders in 2020, this is an incredible and vast number as it is, okay? It's a 42% increase on the same period in 2019. That's a 1 year gap, okay? Now, roughly 42%, I'm not going to try and do the maths here, but if we just say for round numbers that number is halved. So let's just say that they were just shy of 300 million orders in 2019, and now they have achieved 588 million in 2020. Okay, this is an absolutely phenomenal increase in numbers. Now, this came from the source hospitalityandcateringnews.com if you would like to go and have a look at the rest of the article and content. Okay, so this is a primary example. You have most likely used Just Eat, or at least heard of it at some point in your life. Okay, now this is a lot to do with marketing, advertising, brand recognition, but predominantly they were one of the first to come up with this concept you could order food via an app. Okay, they went out, they collected local restaurants, and they decided that this is what they were going to do. Okay, so if you needed an indication that this is what's happening now, take this as your indication. Okay, now we're going to discuss a couple more important things on this topic throughout the rest of the webinar. Okay, so social media platforms continue to grow in user count. Okay, if you're a user of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, okay, there's a Snapchat, there is a relatively new platform called TikTok. Okay, there are so many social media platforms available to us today. Okay, we can access them on our phones, our computers, our gadgets, our iPads, all of the tech that we have. Okay, now social media platforms are not declining, they're continuing to grow in user count. Okay, Facebook being the leader. Facebook has also, I believe, been around the longest. Okay, now I might not be correct on that because I'm sure that Facebook and Twitter came out around about a similar time, so don't quote me on this, but in theory it really does begin to showcase the point that if you are the first to do something, you will often become one of the leaders in the industry. Okay, people will always look to do the same if they're seeing great success with someone doing something. So when Facebook came around, I'm sure that inspired many other social media platforms as well. Okay, but most importantly, we must recognize that there is a curve, there is a trend happening, and we must begin to take advantage of that. Okay, so with the ever-growing demand in the digital world, a digital agency is one of the best businesses that you can look to enter the market with. Okay, now businesses who refuse to go online are quickly getting left behind. And again, it's an honest and real shame that businesses who are deciding not to go online or simply can't go online are beginning to struggle. Okay, so if we look at this, even if bricks and mortar stores do decide to stay as a bricks and mortar store, more often than not, they are looking to develop Facebook pages, other forms of social media, other forms of online advertising, and a website. Okay, so at the very least, even if they're not moving completely online with all their stock and fulfillment, they are still choosing to at least give themselves an online presence. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a very brief pause. Please take a moment, write down any notes that you might like to take, and indeed ask any questions that you have. Please fire away, and I'll be back with you in a few moments' time for topic number 2. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance now to write down any notes and ask any questions, and that can now allow us to move on to topic number 2 of the day. Okay, so we're going to talk about expansion avenues for digital agencies here. So we're going to get a little bit more specific in terms of what an actual digital agency could look like and how they develop themselves. Okay, so the limitations that a digital agency may encounter are often set by an unwillingness to learn new skills and take calculated risks. Now, if you're familiar with the industry, you'll already be aware of this. And if you're unfamiliar with the industry and you're here today to learn some new information, well, digital agencies are a very dynamic, very diverse type of business. Okay, and it's important that they stay up to date with current trends, what's happening in the digital world, any developments, any new social media algorithms, any new advertising methods. Okay, the only limitations that a digital agency might encounter are often set by an unwillingness to learn these new skills, learn these new algorithms. Okay, and on top of this, take calculated risks. All right, so you could apply this theory to any business, and you could apply it to digital agencies. Okay, we must always be looking to learn new skills, and we must always be willing to take calculated risks. If we don't do these things, we do run the risk of falling behind, because our competitors will definitely be learning new skills and taking calculated risks to grow their business and in turn grow their awareness. Okay, so the digital space has multiple applications to everyday businesses. We're going to run through what these are now. Okay, number 1, organic and paid social media presence. Okay, any business can utilize this method. Okay, any business, like we discussed in the previous slide, if somebody is a bricks and mortar store, even from a simple convenience store, maybe a takeaway, whatever, they can absolutely develop an organic social media presence. Okay, Facebook page, it costs nothing to create. Instagram page costs nothing to create. Okay, these are all free or organic presence online. Okay, now you can also do paid social media presence. You can run paid advertising campaigns on Facebook, on Instagram, etc. Okay, now the other thing that can be done is utilize a high-performing website. Okay, so there are websites, of course, and I'm sure you'll visited websites in the past that you felt could have done with maybe a slightly better touch, slightly faster, slightly more effective. Okay, but the salient point here being that an application of the digital space to an everyday business would be a website. Okay. Now, again, as we mentioned previously, a website is a fairly basic expectation these days that a business would have. Okay. So often, if it's a takeaway that you're looking to order from and you can't see the menu, you would likely try and search for them on something like Just Eat, or you might look for their menu on their website or their social media page. Okay. The same as if a convenience store, you might be wanting to check what time they're open and what time they close. Again, this information would be listed on their website. Okay. Gyms, hair salons. Okay. Other examples of local bricks and mortar businesses. Okay. A website gives you the information that you need. Blogs and articles. Okay. This is done broadly for brand awareness, for developing a following behind the business. Okay. But blogs and articles are another application that local everyday businesses, okay, can use to enter the digital space. They can create blog content. They can allow people to follow them. They can allow people to engage and comment and enjoy the content that's being put out. The same theory applies to articles. Okay. Once again, this is a digital application. A blog cannot be done without an online presence. Okay. Food and grocery ordering and delivery. Now, this is a huge up and comer. You've got Uber Eats, you've got Deliveroo, you've got Just Eat. Okay. Food and grocery ordering and delivery. This is a massive thing that's coming about now. Okay. For convenience stores, for restaurants, for takeaway businesses. Okay. This is a huge thing that is being utilized to increase custom, increase the regularity of the custom, and therefore increase the revenue of the business. Okay. So if you just see a convenience store that exists only as bricks and mortar, they rely on foot traffic and some local awareness for people to visit their store. Now take the same application and put it online and offer delivery, you're accessing a much, much wider audience. Okay. So it's very important to understand this. You've also got online appointment setting that businesses can use, like gyms, for example, or hair salons or beauty therapists. Okay. They can all utilize online appointment setting software to make sure that their calendars fill up so that when they do go into their bricks and mortar premises first thing in the morning, they are ready and expecting a list of clients or customers that day. Okay. So it's an extremely effective tool. It alleviates time from the customer. It alleviates time from the seller. Okay. It makes the process simple and easy for everyone, which means that the easier it is to do, the more likely it is to be done. Okay. So if somebody has to phone a business every time they want to make an appointment, there's a good chance that they might not do it. Okay. If they have the accessibility online to go ahead and do this by themselves without having to speak to somebody, without having to wait, they can just go on and do it at a time that suits them. Much, much, much more preferential. Okay. So continuing on the expansion avenues. New skills and abilities in the digital space are introduced by major educational platforms regularly. You can absorb this knowledge. Okay. So looking at one particular expansion avenue, which being yourself. Okay. You are the leader in this context of the digital agency. The skills and abilities of which you possess are ultimately what will drive you forward. Okay. So when we're looking at new skills and abilities introduced by major educational platforms, it's up to you to make sure that you're absorbing this knowledge. Okay. So a huge step is watching this webinar today, for example. You're learning about the potential of a digital agency. Okay. You can learn this and many other pieces of content in many similar ways. You can absorb the knowledge that you need in order to expand your digital agency in many, many places. Okay. But learning and absorbing that knowledge, that's up to you. Okay. So if you can commit to yourself to do that, you will reap the rewards going forward. Your digital agency could continue to grow as there is no ceiling. Okay. Now, we can and will discuss some of the variables that you must take into account when looking at your digital agency growing, but there is no ceiling as such. Okay. There is no barrier that you could not surpass. Okay. Digital agencies can continue to grow as much as they see fit and as much as they can. Okay. There's nobody saying you cannot get any bigger than X. You cannot grow past X. Okay. Because you absolutely can. The resources of a digital agency, as long as they are in place, they can carry the business forward. Okay. You can have an unlimited amount of clients so long as you have the operational backup to support you. You can offer an unlimited range of services in different niches and industries, as long as you have skills and expertise in order to offer those services to those particular niches and industries. Okay. There is no ceiling. You can take on as many clients as you wish, as long as you have the operational structure to handle it. Okay. So if you're asking me the simple question, well, Ben, how big can my digital agency get before it just stops? The answer is limitless. You can grow your agency as large as you would like to grow it. Okay. Now, many people have different business ambitions. Some people prefer to work less time. Some people prefer to grow bigger teams. Some people prefer to grow bigger businesses. It's your management style. It's your preferential method. It's the way you like to live life. And that's why digital agencies can be adaptive to how you choose to live your day-to-day life. Okay. If you don't want the responsibility of managing a large team, then don't. Simply make sure that you are the only one working on your digital agency. If, however, you decide that you would like to work a little bit less, then grow your agency to a point where you can hire team members to work with you. Okay, so here's an example. If you have increased demand in your digital agency, okay, demand is outweighing supply. Okay, now the very simple business theory of supply and demand, okay, is essentially we have a supply, which is the product or service, and we have the demand, which is the demand for the product or service. Okay, now what you don't want is the supply to outweigh the demand, which means that there is nobody waiting to buy your product or service. What we do want is the demand outweighing the supply. That means that there are lots of people queuing to buy the product or service, and you don't have enough of it to go around. So if this is the case, look to hire assistants. Okay, you can hire people to help you deliver more service as long as they are qualified to do so. Okay, there's a demand for a certain niche. Educate yourself in this space. If you're seeing market-wide that there is a demand for more websites to be developed, go and educate yourself on website development and step into that industry. There's absolutely nothing saying that you can't do it. If your leads are drying up, restructure your lead generation. Okay, if something has been working for you to this point where you've had a consistent lead flowing into your business and it is no longer working, check why this is. Once you know why it is, restructure your lead generation. There are lots and lots and lots of forms of successful and effective lead generation, paid advertising being one, organic social media being another, blog writing being another, email marketing being another. Okay, that's just a very, very short example of how many lead generation methods there are out there and accessible to you. So if one method isn't working, don't panic, don't worry, simply go ahead and restructure. Okay, now that brings us to the end of topic number 2, and very shortly we'll be moving on to topic number 3, which is the third and final topic of today. Okay, so I'm going to give you a second now. Go ahead, take down any notes that you might have, and please do indeed feel free to ask me any questions. I would love to answer them in the Q&A session at the end. Okay, so I'll be back with you in a few moments. All righty, now moving on to the third and final topic of today. We're going to be discussing the traits of digital agency market leaders. Okay, so first thing to remember, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Okay, so when we're looking at this kind of thing, okay, this kind of concept, not needing to reinvent the wheel is something that you must absolutely remember. Okay, you don't have to create something new. You don't have to create something amazing. You simply need to do what has been done successfully before. Okay, so when you're looking at not reinventing the wheel, you are eliminating any potential stress. You're making sure that you don't need to come up with ingenuitive concepts every single day. Okay, you just need to follow what has been done before and what has been done well. Okay, so with this theory in mind, does it now seem possible to grow a successful digital agency? We're thinking that you don't have to grow something from scratch with knowledge. You can simply follow what has been recognized as successful before. Okay, so bear in mind, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Now, digital agency market leaders understand this more than anyone. Okay, they follow the methods that have been working for other businesses, other digital agencies in the past. All right, so if they've seen that there's a huge gap in the market for paid advertising, and it is a very, very successful niche, they themselves will get involved. They will see who they can help and how they can help them when it comes to paid advertising. Okay, so keep this in mind when you're coming to analyze the type of digital agency that you would like to build. Okay, the digital agency business model is tried and tested and proven to be effective. Okay, you can do a Google search right now for digital marketing agencies, and you will have a whole list of pages and pages and pages of different agencies. Now, the reason that there are so many and so many different niches is because it is a tried and tested model. Okay, now, not every agency is successful. This is the key differentiator here. Okay, a select amount of every digital agency that is alive and existing right now, only a finite number of them will actually be what we would term as successful, what you would term as successful. Okay, now success can be defined in different ways. It's important that we cover this. Success can be a few tens of thousands a year, and if that's enough, that's what you want, that's how much you want to work to achieve, then perfect. Okay, success is defined in different ways by different individuals. Okay, some people want more time back. A digital agency can provide that. Some people want to grow something beyond themselves. A digital agency can provide that. Some people want to help those around them. Okay, they want to build teams. A digital agency can do that. Okay, now the digital agency model in itself is tried and tested. Now, if you want to take your digital agency into the hundreds of thousands, there's nothing saying you can't do that. If you want to take your digital agency into the millions of pounds turnover per year, there are digital agencies doing that right now. Okay, now digital agencies come in many different shapes and sizes and different forms. Okay, you've got paid advertising specialists, you've got SEO specialists, you've got software specialists, okay, just to name a few. So if you're looking at the digital agency business model as a whole, it's tried, it's tested, and it's proven to be effective as long as the leader of the business knows what they are doing. Okay, now market leaders prioritize their client care and actively seek to improve every day. This is the trait of a leader. If you want to be a market leader with your digital agency, you must be aware that client care is number one on their list. Okay, they want to educate themselves, they want to seek to improve, they want to do better for their clients and better for themselves. They take care of the people around them, they take care of the business. Okay, now taking care of the clients means that you are taking care of the business. Okay, taking care of your staff, your team members, means that you're keeping a smooth model running. Everybody is happy, everybody is efficient and productive. Okay, market leaders understand this. The leaders of these digital agencies are aware that their clients are incredibly important, because without clients, there is no business. Okay, and the same goes for staff members and team members. If there is no team, there is no infrastructure. If there's no infrastructure, there's no ability to deliver the services to the clients. Okay, so it is a wonderfully recognized circle that they maintain. Okay, now market leaders educate themselves on new information in the digital space to stay up to date and deliver for clients at a high standard. Okay, they are subscribed to newsletters in the digital space. They regularly attend webinars. They regularly attend conferences and events. They speak to experts. They understand what they need to do in order to achieve what they want to achieve. Okay, that is absolutely crucial if you want to be a leader in any walk of life, never mind being a digital agency leader. Okay, you must always be aware that there are better things that can be done. There are more things that can be learned. Okay, so you need to stay up to date and you need to be able to deliver for your clients at a high standard in order to be a successful digital agency. Okay, now finally, market leaders foster positive culture throughout their team and their client base. Okay, they are positive more than anything else. Okay, they're not doom and gloom, they're not negative, they're not like, oh, this is going to collapse tomorrow. Okay, they motivate, they encourage, they inspire, they make sure the people around them know that the business is going somewhere. Okay, they also translate and convey this to their clients. Okay, not just the team within house, they also convey this message to the outside world, so the clients know the type of business they are. Clients want to latch themselves to successful up and coming businesses, and the reason that they are successful and up and coming is because they care for their clients, because they deliver their services at such a high standard. So if you are a client, for example, looking to work with a digital agency, and one is doom and gloom and saying, oh, I don't think I'll really be able to get you any results, but you know what, we can try. Or you have the other side of the coin, the other digital agency who is much more upbeat, and they say, yeah, absolutely. Here's the recommendations that we have for you. I've got an excellent team that have proven success in these fields. We can show you case study X, we can show you testimonial Y, we can show you a list of examples as to why we can do this for you, and here's exactly how we're going to do it. Okay, now we are confident, whilst we can't make any promises as we can to anyone, we are confident that we could get this done for you. As a client, which business are you going to choose? Okay, and market leaders know this. They put themselves in the shoes of the consumer and they see, what would they like to see? What would they like to buy? How would they like to buy? Okay, so many thoughts that could go in here, but predominantly the point you need to understand is that market leaders foster positive culture throughout their team and their client base. Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief moment now, just before we jump onto the summary of today's session, to jot down any notes and indeed ask any questions. I've seen that we've had a question or two come in, and I'm looking forward to answering them in a very short moment, okay? So hopefully you've had a chance now to jot down any notes that you might have had on topic number 3, and we can summarize today's session, okay? So number 1, demand for digital services is on the rise, okay? Be aware of this. Number 2, your only limitation is you. If you don't educate yourself, if you're not committed to growing the business, then the business won't grow. And finally, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, okay? Practice the tried and tested methods that have been done before and have proven success history, okay? You don't have to come up with something brand new. Simply do what's already working, okay? So, as always, a massive thank you for taking the time to attend today's session. If you would like to talk to a member of our team, you are more than welcome to head over to iob-business.com/talk-to-us, okay? So I'm gonna leave the URL up on screen there for you. You can go ahead and you can book a call at the time that suits you, and you can have a more in-depth conversation with us about what all of this means, okay? So whilst I have that link up on screen, I'm going to go ahead and grab my questions from today's session, okay? So thank you so much to those of you that have asked questions, and you still have a chance now for any of you that haven't. If you would like to ask any questions for me, you're more than welcome to send them over. Okay, so first question I have today: how would I take on another client if I am already short for time? Okay, perfect. So if we're talking about this contextually, okay, so my sort of educated guess here would be that you're asking the question because we're talking about business growth, we're talking about compounding the business, we're talking about managing different services, okay? So if you're already short for time, okay, what I would recommend doing is reviewing your time management methods, okay? Could they be improved with time segmentation, stricter routines, okay? If your time management is already very good, and if it works out to be financially viable, you could look at outsourcing some of your work, or even in-house, okay? You could look at delegating, you could look at bringing in additional staff members. So specifically what we spoke about in the presentation and why this question is relevant is because we were discussing solving certain issues in your business, okay? We were solving issues that may prevent you from going forwards, okay, growing as a business, and one of which was we don't have the operational structure to help with the demand versus the supply issue, okay? Now, we spoke about before, the good problem to have is the demand outweighing the supply. Now, if this is the situation that you have, you can take on another client by either A, looking at your time segmentation and your time management, or you can make sure that you bring in somebody else who is qualified to deal with that new client, okay? If you see a monetary or financial opportunity there, i.e. a new client offering to pay X amount per month or whatever they're offering, you can hire somebody in-house to help take on some of that workload and in turn grow your business financially, okay? Fantastic question, thank you. Next question, how would I show bricks and mortar businesses that an online presence could help them? Okay, perfect. So what I would definitely recommend doing here is everything that we talked about in the presentation, lock that in, okay? Because we talked an awful lot about the techniques that you can use to show businesses, okay? The Just Eat example being just one of them, to display and highlight to these bricks and mortar businesses that, okay, you don't actually have to move fully online, but definitely having an online presence couldn't hurt. Okay, so what I'd recommend doing is show these businesses social proof and, where possible, active evidence of online platforms such as social media working well for other businesses like theirs even, okay? The social proof being testimonials, case studies. This is working for me right now, okay? Social proof is people seeing other people enjoying the results of a great service, okay? In theory, there are many different applications for it, but contextually, this is the one that we're after, okay? So a great form of social proof would be a case study of another convenience store, if we're using that as our example, who has recently opened a Facebook page, recently launched the website, and is seeing much better business revenue because of that, okay? Or other benefits like brand awareness or active involvement in the community. Okay, so this is how you show them that having an online presence can be a massive benefit to them. Nowadays, if you see a business without a Facebook page, it does look a little bit strange because it's just almost becoming a standard expectation. So you can show the benefits, you can highlight in these case studies, in these testimonials, or even just as examples of what could be achieved if they did do this. Now, if that's not a big enough motivator, then I personally don't know what will be. Okay, if you're telling somebody that you can help them grow their brand, potentially grow their turnover by doing this, I don't know why they would be against it, okay? So another fantastic question. I hope that that helps with your question. I hope that answer was useful. Okay, so just going to do one final check now to make sure that we don't have any more questions for today's session. And it looks like that is it for today. Okay, perfect. So that being said, a very, very warm welcome into the new year, and a very, very big thank you to those of you that are taking the time to join us on today's session. We run these sessions once every 2 weeks, so I very much look forward to seeing you again 2 Wednesdays from today. Okay, all the best, take care, and I look forward to speaking with you again very, very soon.